Hello everyone and welcome to In Focus, a production of the Barbados Government Information Service where we discuss the topics that impact and shape our lives. I'm your host, Sharifa Medford-Gilkes. Today is International Youth Day and we're spotlighting a struggle so many young people know all too well, joining the workforce. There have been reports of too few job openings, unpaid internships, sky-high expectations, and age bias. And tonight we're going to find out more about what government, employers, and schools are actually doing to open doors for fresh talent and what needs to change so our youth are not just getting a foot in, but a seat and a say at the table. Joining me for this conversation are Deontay Collymore, former job starter and current assistant administrator of the Job Start Plus program, excuse me, and Jaheem Thomas, student advisor to the focal point for student councils in the Ministry of Educational Transformation. And later, we'll be joined by Dario Walcott of the TVET Council and Erika Watson of the Ministry of Labour. But let's get into it. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on In Focus tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Jaheem, I'm going to throw the first question to you. Through your conversations with your peers and persons your age, what are some of the challenges you're hearing that young people are faced with when trying to land that first job?
Thank you for that question, Sharifa. I will start by saying that some of the challenges that they face, or at least one of the first ones or the most common ones I hear, is lack of certification. A lot of them don't have the prerequisites to actually get into the job that they want to get into, or may not have the advanced education to get into the job that they want to get into. That also comes with lack of experience. A lot of them sometimes don't have the experience or exposure to the job that they want to be a part of, so then they find it difficult. Besides those two, you then see that there is other issues that we will get into later on, I'm sure, but other issues like their socio-economic well-being or status, their home and home life, and all of that affects how they are able to actually get into that first job or the job that they really want to get into. Yeah.
Did you have a similar issue when you were starting your first job?
I would say yes, particularly with what Jaheem mentioned when it comes to that experience barrier. For me, I was very streamlined in my education, so I went from primary to secondary, and then I went to UE. After that, I was looking for work, so I left UE when I was around 21 years old, and I was home for around a year or so just job hunting. No success. One of the main issues that I came across that employers told me was my lack of experience. Although I had the qualifications, as Jaheem mentioned, the experience was what they really wanted. Most of the jobs that you see, they require like 2 to 3 years experience. That's not feasible for somebody that is now coming out of university. So I would say I had a very difficult time finding work at that period.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Well, for instance, programs like Job Start Plus is a good way to bridge that gap. We provide the next steps in terms of training for persons who are now entering the workforce and are now leaving school. So we are like that ladder that they would take to bridge the gap between wanting a job and achieving the job.
How did you get involved in Job Start Plus?
For me,
and tell us what it's really about, because there's some people who may not even know what it is.
Okay, let's start with how I got involved with Job Start Plus then. For me, it was quite simple. I was scrolling through social media one day. I was on Instagram actually, and I saw the ad pop up. At that time, I was desperate to do anything, so any opportunity that came my way, I was eager to grasp it. So I saw the opportunity, I applied, and within a month or so, I got a call saying that I was successful with my application. So that's where it started. In terms of what was the next question, I forgot, sorry.
What does it entail?
Okay, so the Job Start Plus is a 3-week training program, and in those 3 weeks, we take you through a variety of different courses. So we have anger management, We deal with conflict resolution. We teach you how to write a resume. We do effective communication. Customer service is a big part of our training. So we do a variety of topics and courses within that time. We also teach you how to dress for success, teach you how to dress for an interview. So those are just some of the few areas that we cover. We also offer a stipend during that time. So it is based on how many days you attend training. And then after that is over, we pair you with a career counselor who will help you map your path forward to the career that you actually want.
Well, this must have been a relief after being home for such a long time. And I want to go back to that part of your life. What was it like? Was it frustrating? How did it impact your mental health, being unemployed for that period of time?
It was definitely stressful. I found myself, I'm a very productive person. So for me, being home for a year, not doing anything, applying to jobs and not getting through, it was like somebody was there beating me upside my head with a hammer. That's how it felt to me. Like I was sinking into some sort of depression, but thankfully JobStart Plus was able to pull me out of that. But when you are not able to do what you want to do or be productive, it really takes its toll on your mental health. Also, you have like persons saying how the job hunt is going, and you have to say, well, don't play, and say, well, I'm working on it, and so on. So it was a very difficult time in my life, but thankfully I'm past that. But it gave me the experience, and it gave me, I would say, it helped me to cater my interactions towards like-minded persons. So I know where young persons are coming from, and I am better able to help them as a result of my experience.
No, Jahim, I know you're also working very closely with students through the student councils within the schools, and obviously you have your peers at UE as well. What are their feelings about their transition period where, just like Deontay, they may have maybe experiencing issues? And I know obviously y'all are working to get them ready for the world of work. So how do they feel now, getting to that stage and then not being able to secure a job?
I want to take that question in two stages. Number one, dealing with the secondary level transition to tertiary, or may even be going to look for work. And then the next one is because I'm a law student at the University of the West Indies, Capefield campus here, right? And sometimes I know that we often hear, even as lawyers, or law students, that you may have to, a lot of people, they don't play lawyers or law students, and they may say something like, for the first couple of years, you might not get the money that you want or the clients that you want. You might go do this, or you hear a whole set of things when it comes to law students. Now, for me personally and my peers, I've heard, because we've had conversations about it, one of the things that we look to do with regards to our career mapping, our career pathing, is identify what are the competencies and skills that we can bring to the table, even with and without our law degree. So I find it interesting when we come in law school and we would do a day where they do, if law fails, then what else? Because at the end of the day, what it does is it frames your mind to always have, I don't want to say a plan B, but to be able to reshape, restructure, pivot a little bit, so that you still find a good career or a good career footing in. And I know sometimes that can be difficult. So sometimes you will experience what Deontay would have said, right? And you have to be able to know what is a clear path for you. With respect to the students moving to tertiary, you will find that a lot of students become somewhat, many students, because we've passed through this, I'm sure we've passed through this, right? When you get to 5th, 6th form, you're looking for what's next. And having not been able to know what is next because you don't have the guidance And that can come from even within your community, a mentor, whatever. You don't have the guidance to move forward. Everything becomes a blur. So then you go into panic. And then what you may try to do is actually, or what many students, what we sure have tried to do is find some type of security. But what it may have done is given a false sense of security. And so children may leave school and go and work, may decide they're going into hustling, a hustle culture, but without any clear direction as to how am I going to bring upward social mobility or gain upward social mobility, and also where or how am I going to find financial stability? Because honestly, there's only so far you can go having not have even sometimes that education at the secondary level and then trying to find work. So it becomes difficult, and with that blur, it is also very difficult to see where do I go next for others.
It's interesting that you mentioned those persons who did not have opportunity to go to the tertiary level, because then I'm wondering then what can be done at the secondary level to prepare persons then for the world of work. Because I mean, everybody can't go to university. Some people would like to, but they can't. So what happens with those persons? I'm not sure if you would experience that in Job Start.
Yes. So the issue with secondary schools there are about 500 persons to one guidance counselor. That is very difficult for one guidance counselor to handle. So what we have Job Start Plus do, we have a system or a software called Cooder. It is basically, they ask you questions, and based on your answers, it provides you with career paths to choose from. So we do a computer session. We have 15 computers available. So they come in, they answer the questions, and then based on the questions, the program or the software will say, well, I think this career is best suited to the questions that you answered. I think this is your work-life balance. I think this is the path that you need to take moving forward. It is a suggestion, it's not set in stone, but it gets the job starters to start thinking about different career paths. It gets them in this direction of, well, there are more careers out there for me than just being a doctor, a lawyer. I know a lot of them are interested in cosmetology. It helps them to start thinking outside the box now.
What's the age range for Job Start Plus?
So the age range is 16 to 24 at the moment. We also extended it to 16 to 34 for persons with disabilities.
Okay. Okay, we mentioned the requirement of experience. Sometimes people want 2 to 3 years experience. But do we also see age bias here in Barbados when it comes to jobs for young people in particular?
I would say yes. From my experience dealing with employers, a lot of them tend to shy away from hiring the younger generation. It may be because they see them as lazy. They also, what has come up is they have an attitude. They're not willing to work hard. Some of these things are true, but they are not the majority for most of the young persons today. Most young persons just want a chance, an opportunity to prove themselves. So I think that is where some of the bias can be broken down. We at Job Start, we try to match persons with careers that they're interested in. We go to employers, we say, hey, we have a pool of young persons who are eager and willing to work and learn, and we hope that you give them a chance to prove that they are willing to do that.
You see this a lot too with a lot of job opportunities that ask for a vehicle, a driver. And so one of the things that they would say is, well, you have to be 25 years old, so they already you are excluding 18, 19, up to 25. And then you need at least 3 or 5 years driving experience. So even if you're 25, with your license, you still can't apply for the job, right? Another exclusion. And sometimes when I see those things, I wonder, is it because you're looking for someone who you believe will be a safe driver? Because, I mean, at 25 years old, you can be a reckless driver too. Even if you have 3 years experience, you can be a reckless driver too. I like to think, and I can be creative in my mind, I like to think that sometimes I would hire a 18-year-old who now get their license from my company as a safe way or to give me some sense of security that, you know, the company vehicle is safe. Because, I mean, a part of me, I remember when I first got my license, and you couldn't get me to speed and go anywhere. I was too frightened to do that, right? And that may not be everybody's reality, but you do see where there is that exclusion. In my opinion, in places or job opportunities where it does not need to be.
Mm-hmm. And in preparation for this show, we were, putting out the questions to some people that we know, and we were hearing the people that are aged don't want to go home and make space for the young people. What are y'all hearing on the ground?
I was just about to touch on that. For instance, that is the case in some instances. However, but what I'm more hearing is when young persons get into the workforce, the older generation kind of shun them. They're not willing to train them. They're not willing to offer their advice to the young persons. I think for most young persons, they want somebody to take them under their wing. They need a mentor of some sort to be able to show them the ropes, to pass on knowledge. And I find that we as a community, as a society, need to adopt that mentality more. So don't see it as more competition, see it as a way of imparting what you have learned onto somebody else that they could carry on the legacy and carry on the business.
I think it takes reframing our mindset when it comes to transgenerational knowledge. I say that because it's a cycle. We know it's a cycle. You are going to reach retirement age. I am also going to be at school leaving age as well. And it has to be that we can continue a cycle of, I want to say, good organizational culture, the history of the company or the organization, and even your work ethic, right? I am a big supporter of mentorship. I don't believe, and I think we have to get that mindset that once you are able to train someone and I believe in getting people to train to do something better than you, or better than you were able to do it. Why? Because that speaks to longevity. It gives you some type of safety net that you not once you have left, that what you've started, might be able to continue or may get changed up a little bit, but at least something is there to move on, or to go on, or to actually support a young person. And I think that's one of the mindset shifts that really need to occur. But also, on the other hand, you also see a lot of young persons who also aren't willing to take in or to actually, I want to use the term, be humble enough to actually go under a mentor or go under a supervisor or go under someone who has gone through the ropes before. In fact, there's this mindset that, and it comes from a deeper place, but it's this mindset that I, in this world alone, I could get it done on my own. I can show the world that I could do it. But the world also shows you that you can't get it done on your own, right? Or that it's harder. And so, as I said, I'm a big fan of mentorship because we have to appreciate at the end of the day that you're not going to be here forever. I'm also not going to be at this place that I am forever as well. And we have to work together to continue building on what we will call legacy.
I think then that we need to probably expand our internship programs then, so that then these younger persons can then, you know, as you say, work under a mentor, and probably expand it from more than just office jobs. I mean, there are a wealth of jobs out here, fishermen, boat builders, farming, that there are opportunities for young persons to actually have a mentor and, you know, segue into that particular, and pay them as well, not just mentor them and teach them, because I mean we got to pay bus fare and buy lunch, so we need to be paid for these internships. So I think that there's an opportunity there to probably expand that program as well. But my question is, do you think there are actually enough jobs out here for our young people?
I want to say that there is opportunity for jobs to, yes, there are jobs, but there's opportunity for more jobs. As we continue to look at the advancement even of artificial intelligence, and when we look at the demands, the job demands for the future, we have to be able to let youth be aware that these are potential opportunities for jobs. But what it also takes is for young people to also be aware of how they can align themselves to the skills and competencies to actually become good or suitable candidates to get into jobs because jobs will develop, right? With respect to whether there are jobs out there, no. I mean, I've seen many opportunities, job opportunities, coming through even social media, coming through information pages, etc. But when you look at the jobs, and I can even share this from one of my personal experiences with one of my friends, right? And you give them that opportunity to see what the job is. It's not one they want to do, right? And I mean, many jobs, you know, and you put it there, but it's like, nah, I don't want to do that, and so I don't want to say that there aren't job opportunities out there, right? But it may not be what they may want to do.
I totally agree with Jaheen. During my time at the Job Start Plus program, I have learned that there are many opportunities. That is the key word. There are opportunities out there to find employment, to find work. It is really what you want to do. Every job is not a job that you are going to want to do. Sometimes, depending on your situation, you might have to bite the bullet and say, well, this is not what I want right now. I'm going to do it until I find better.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yes, you have to start somewhere. A lot of young people now, I find, are not willing to do that. So that might be the cause to say why some of them are unemployed at the moment. My mentality going into the workforce was I would do anything. I just wanted to grasp an opportunity because I knew what I was worth. I knew that I could offer more. Thankfully, somebody was able to see that, offer me an opportunity as a result of that. But many persons nowadays are not willing to say, well, I am doing what I don't want to do now so that I can do what I want to do in the future. And Jaheen spoke to that. It's about longevity at the end of the day. Sometimes you have to do the hard thing to do the thing that you really want to do later.
You touched on something just now about job creation. I'm wondering, do we have people advising the employers how their business could be even better if they had to implement these other positions? Because you mentioned AI and the advancement of AI in the job world, in the world right now. We have social media. There are a lot of businesses that still have not engaged those particular developments. And I'm figuring, like, even I don't know if JobStart has a relationship with employers, so they figure y'all work closely with certain businesses or whatever.
Yes.
I think that there's an opportunity to advise them, hey, you could do with a social media or content creator. That's another opportunity as well. I think we need to probably inform, educate them more about creating positions.
Well, I would say that social media is a powerful tool. That's how I found out about the program. A lot of opportunities out there are being circulated through social media. For instance, Instagram is a big one for me. I know a lot of the younger generation likes TikTok. They like the shorter version of the content. So like the issue is to be able to grab their attention quickly and keep it. So I think social media is like a big way that we could begin to start distributing that information.
Okay.
The opportunities are there. It's just we need to use the tools available to get the information to the young persons.
The funny thing about the funny thing about TikTok and social media, what I am seeing, especially with a lot of young people, is that and you did say it's a powerful tool. They're actually using TikTok and social media to get their career guidance, to get their academic guidance, and that in itself can be a very dangerous thing, because when they think, and I mean, I've had conversations with many youth, and they may say things like, but you know, I saw this thing on social media, on TikTok, and you're like, but for someone who understands how career pathing works, okay, so a good example would be this. A young person may want to go into a job, doesn't have the certifications. What they will do is they will say to you, but you know, I ain't got getting the certifications, man. And they will pull an influencer that they follow on TikTok or social media. So he went to tertiary. Don't say tertiary, but understand me.
Yeah.
He went to tertiary. He didn't go to tertiary. I know he's successful, right? But then when you see the influencer that they're pulling or that they're highlighting for this success story, is somebody who, in a sociological term, may have used innovative means to actually achieve what they want, right? And sometimes there are people who are also over and away. So different culture, different development, different education, right? But this is the person that they are following to get career and academic guidance. And it is dangerous, because then what happens is that they find themselves still at square one, because this is not your culture, that is not your education system, that's not your pathway or stream to actually create your own success story.
That's a good point, and we can have a whole other conversation on social media. However, we have a question coming in now from the audience. This one is from Lancelot 1236. Companies are asking for 5 years experience. How can a person out of school have experience? We touched on this a little bit, but we can go back. How can they get this experience, 5 years experience, maybe just finished school? I'm 18 years old and I want to apply for this job. I'm qualified, but they want 5 years experience.
You might not be able to get 5 years experience. That is a lot. But there are some ways to gain experience. For example, internships. I know many companies offer summer internships. That is a path that you can do to get that experience up. Volunteering is also a very good way to get experience. It's free, but you are interacting with community, you're giving back to the community. I think that is also a good way of getting experience. Networking with other persons while you are volunteering is also a way to cater and garner, I would say, not really garner, but I would say get that other opportunities for employment going, for instance. So during my time volunteering, I was able to secure job opportunities because I knew persons that I volunteered with. So that is another avenue that you can take in order to get your experience up.
Okay. We have another question coming in from BB123. Do you think that what you learn in school matches the realities of the job market? I'm going to pose this to you, Jahim. You work with the school student councils.
I think, and very simple response to that is the reason why we are in education transformation right now. It has been recognized that we have to adapt to the climate of the way that the international as well as I want to say the international space is moving. Because if we are going to build competent citizens in Barbados, then we have to make sure as well that we have the tools, resources, and mechanisms for them to be successful in whatever job, whatever area of study, whatever avenue in life they choose to go down.
Well, we have heard some hard truths, some bold ideas, and now we have plenty to think about. But we're not done yet. When we come back, we'll be adding other voices to the mix to push this discussion even further. And we want to hear your questions and comments as well. So don't move, we will be right back.
Just a Conversation, the podcast where we discuss the topics that matter to you.
From real stories to real talk, we dive into everything. No filters, no fluff.
We're talking about the issues you actually care about. Finance, mental health, sports, entertainment, and so much more.
It's not just talk. It's conversations that bring us together, challenge us, and keep it real.
Don't have time to watch? No problem.
Just turn on the video while you're cooking and we'll keep you company.
Listen on your morning commute, while you work out at the gym, or even when you get home on evenings and chilling out.
Wherever you are, however you listen, this is your space for real conversations.
Join us.
Join us.
Just a conversation.
Available on all streaming platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at GIS Barbados to share your thoughts or to stay connected.
Skip the line, stay inside, and pay the easy way online with the Pace Digital mobile app. Now you can pay for your renewed license, police certificate of character, and more via the Easy Pay Plus platform with the Pace Digital mobile app. Log into Easy Pay Plus, select the service, and confirm. Select the Pace Digital mobile app payment icon for your QR code. Open your Pace Digital mobile app and select the Pace Digital Pay tab. Scan the QR code and confirm your payment. Visit us online to learn more. Don't have the Pace Digital mobile app? Download it today.
Attention citizens, if you notice any unusual insects or animals on imported fruits, vegetables, or plants, do not turn a blind eye. These strange organisms may be invasive species, threats that can wreak havoc on our farms, ecosystems, and jeopardize our local food supply. Early detection and swift reporting are our best defenses against the spread of potentially dangerous pests and diseases. Contact the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security at 535-5100. Email to hotline@agriculture.gov.bb or WhatsApp a picture to 832-2445. Protect our agriculture because a healthy Barbados begins with you.
Farmers. Now you can access our farms right from your phone, tablet, or computer. Just visit agriculture.gov.bb. Go to resources and click download form. There you will find many of the forms you need, including incentives and rebate. And it gets even better. These forms are fully fillable. No printing, no hassle. Just type, save, and submit. Your requests get processed faster, saving you time and effort. So why waste a trip when you've got better things to do with your time? Go online today and get it done from the comfort of your home or farm. Visit agriculture.gov.bb, click resources, and download your form now. It's that easy.
Welcome back to In Focus. If you've just joined us, today is International Youth Day, and we've been breaking down the real barriers young people face when trying to land that first job and what needs to change to turn things around. We've already heard from our two engaging panelists, and now we welcome Erika Watson, Program Manager of the People Development Implementation and Monitoring Unit in the Ministry of Labour, Social Security and Third Sector, and Dario Walcott, Lead Officer, WorldSkills Barbados, and Technical Delegate for Barbados to WorldSkills Americas and International, to add another perspective to the conversation. So let's jump right back in. Erika, first, can you tell us what your organization does to help young persons who are now entering the workforce?
Okay, well, I work for the Ministry of Labour, Social Security and Third Sector, and we are committed to creating a Barbados that is the best place to work, contribute, retire. And youth unemployment is an ongoing challenge that we know we have in the labour market. And with that, we have made a commitment to address it through a youth employment program. Essentially, we want to try to create more opportunities to help young persons to transition into the workplace. Also to create employment opportunities, help them find better matches and so on. So in that program, our flagship initiative is like the Job Start Plus, which you've heard about so far, which is the National First Job Initiative. That's one program in that overall strategy that we've been pushing right now. And the focus on that is about preparing young persons for the world of work through training, also preparing them for their future. So we offer career planning support, and then helping them find placement opportunities in the private and third sectors so that they can gain up to 1 year work experience. And we target young persons between the ages of 16 to 24, but we also have increased it to 34 years for those with disabilities.
So is it possible for any young person now transitioning from either secondary or tertiary education to reach out to your department to get guidance or assistance?
Yeah, our program registration is never closed. So you have to be not enrolled in education or training, because the point of the program is to place you full-time. So you have to be available to work full-time. But you also should not be employed. So it's open to what we call NEET, not employed or in education or training. And we have registration all throughout the year. You can go online on our website at www.labor.gov.bb. You can register there. You can also walk into the ministry. We're very flexible. If you call and say you're interested, we will email you the registration form. You can even email it back. So we try to accommodate registration all throughout. So anytime anyone is interested, you could just come and sign up. And you join the pool of young persons that we work through in providing the training.
Okay, we're going to be sure to drop that email, that website in our comments for anybody to access. Dario, tell us what WorldSkills Barbados is doing to help our youth.
Okay, so WorldSkills Barbados is a program at the TVET Council, Barbados. And WorldSkills targets young people between the ages of 16 and 21. And it prepares them for international competition, rather WorldSkills Americas or WorldSkills International as it is. And people who enter the program are trained to these globally recognized standards. So trained for the world of work. That's what WorldSkills Barbados does.
And who can enter the program?
So you have to be between the ages of 16 and 21 and currently studying at one of the training institutions. On the last occasion for our national competition, we included persons who were not at one of the training institutions, so persons who were actually employed, but you have to be in the area already.
Okay. Based on your experience working with the youth, what are some of the, I know we discussed the challenges that they're facing, but something that came up through the conversation is some of the attitudes that they may have that may hinder them from getting the job that they want. What is their experience? And give some advice to the young people as they're trying to, transition into the world of work.
Well, young people have a lot of potential, and they have a lot to offer, but then there are some that do have not the right attitude for the workplace. They're impatient, they don't know how to communicate well, they get frustrated easily triggered, and that is why from employers they often give feedback in terms of that the young people need like training emotional intelligence. That always comes up because they feel like the young people are too emotional in the workplace. What we encourage young persons to do is don't be your own worst enemy. You have a lot to offer, because sometimes it comes from lack of confidence too, frustrations. You have a lot to offer, and put your best foot effort in no matter what situation you're in, and see every opportunity to learn and grow. And when they come into the training, we encourage them to embrace the opportunity and make the most of it. When you're trying to go into your workplace, it can be frustrating because it's sometimes difficult to get past the interview and so on, but learn from every experience. And then some young persons have very high expectations of what their first job is going to be in terms of salary, in terms of what they're going to be doing. You're not always going to start exactly where you want to go. Every opportunity is something to learn and grow from, and with career planning, which we do provide in the program, is to help you figure out the kind of jobs and what you can get from them to take you along that career path. But when you do work, see it as gaining experience to develop core skills that you need, which is often the feedback from employers, where that's the communication skills, teamwork and conflict resolution and so on, is the opportunity to learn that. And even though it may not be in the area that you're interested in right now, or is not paying the kind of salary that you believe you deserve, see the value in it, because it does position you well long term. It improves your employability, and it does help you be better prepared for when you do find that next opportunity. So that's the main advice I would give to young people.
Okay. We have a question coming in from the audience, from Marquita Brathwaite. Marquita, thank you for your question. How can we do away with the 5 CXCs as a job requirement when applying? I think we are missing out on tons of great talent. Not saying CXC is not important.
I guess it's do away with CXCs. Yeah. What I would say though is it gives a foundation, because you still need to be able to present that you know something, or that you're able to do something. And it seems like the 5 CXCs has been the benchmark for that. But there are other options. TVET Council, we offer CVQs, which are Caribbean Vocational Qualifications, which are based on occupations, and they're doing CVQs in schools. So I'm sure if you did a CVQ in food prep and cookery, actually CVQs are awarded by CXC in schools as well. If you do a CVQ in food prep and cookery or in carpentry, you have something saying that you have a foundation in food prep, you have a foundation in carpentry and what's not. So I don't know if you'll be able to do away with the 5 CXCs, but there are alternatives that you can present. But you need to be able to show, if I'm going to enter a job role, that I have a foundation on the requirements of the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Dario. We have to understand employers, they're trying to meet a need, and they're trying to make money, they're trying to build their business. And recruitment can be a long process, it can be challenging, it can be expensive, and you need a way of assessing people very quickly. And unfortunately, because there's some debate, a lot of employers lean on CXCs as a metric, as an indicator of competence. It's not always fair. Even in Job Start Plus, where we're trying to get partnerships, we try to negotiate with some. You're asking for like 5 CXCs, but it's a stock job. You're in a warehouse and you're packing shelves. Can we compromise on that? But it is because they're trying to say, well, we know with 5 CXCs, it represents that they have a certain level of competence. It also represents that they have a certain attitude. So that's what they do. They use that as a way of assessing people. I do agree with what my colleague said about the other kind of qualifications, and I think it's about on us to sensitize employers about other things that they can use to assess competence and promote more of these vocational qualifications and the other kinds of qualifications that are available. What I would also say is that we gotta know that in Barbados, most of the employers are from small and medium-sized enterprises, and they don't always have a strong human resource function. So when you have that, you tend to see a lot more of that, because they just don't have the time to really assess people. Where you see a strong function, they put more weight on competencies. So you'll see the requirements is less about qualifications, but saying, well, this is what we expect you to be able to do. And you have to have a strong resume to reflect that. But I do agree that we kind of have to get away from relying heavily on CXCs, but we also have to understand why.
Jahim, before we go to the next question, do you think, from your engagement with the younger persons within the school system, do you think that our young people understand the importance, though, of attaining some level of education in order to get into the workforce? Because I mean, at 16 years old, you're having fun. You may not even be thinking, let me settle down because I need to get this done in order to get the job that I want.
Funny enough, I was about to ask you a question, but I would say, can I ask the question after? Amazing. So there is a general appreciation that education is important if I want to go forward in life. And sometimes for them, that attaining that education can be difficult, and for so many different reasons. It does not mean that they don't want to learn. It does not mean that they don't want to be in a community of people who actually are solution oriented, or even when you look at people who hustle, it's because they know this is at least one way or one means that I can get bread, right, on my table. One way that I can be independent, right? And regardless of how they may get that education, whether it's through CXC, whether it's through another vocational qualification, or sometimes even by knowledge of a parent. Let's say, for example, someone who does mechanics or hairdressing. I can definitely say that there is a general appreciation that education is important.
Okay.
All right.
I have to pause you here for our next question. Sorry, I'm going to get back to your question. Okay, this one is from an anonymous person. Sometimes it's stubbornness on both ends. Some older colleagues refuse to listen to alternate ways of operating and innovation. Some young people think that because they have a degree, they're gods. As a comment, anybody cares to address that?
Well, so I have found, obviously, older people, this is the way I've done it, this works, why are we trying to fix it? And we've had at my office younger people coming on, they have good ideas. And sometimes, and I think I heard you guys said earlier, sometimes you just need a chance. So you just need someone to listen and give it a try. And I think persons in leadership roles need to think, look, if I allow this to happen, what's the worst that can happen? Probably think about it from that point of view and give some opportunities, because that's how they grow. You empower young people.
So my question then was, funny you mentioned experience, right? But in a case where, like, how can we make it more inclusive, especially when it comes to moving away from traditional to a more skills-based approach? Because, for instance, if there's an individual who, you see this in jobs a lot, they're requiring of you to have a bachelor's degree with 5 years experience. But then there may also be a young person in there who may only have secondary level education, but have 10 years experience. Now, there isn't the inclusive option of saying you have the bachelor's degree and the 5 years, or, right? So immediately they're excluded. So for instance, somebody with that did mechanics, they have the experience, but may not have a degree or certification. How do we get them to realize, employers to realize that inclusion is necessary, especially for moving forward?
So my recommendation would be CBET, competency-based education and training, not just theoretically based, as people like to call academics. Knowledge and skills leading to competence, right? And starting from school, so that you can leave school with competencies, right? Take for instance accounting, which can be generally done on a computer or what's not, and theoretically done. However, if you start to work on real accounts, you get that opportunity to do some internship or some real projects, you get real competence, right? you start to build that experience while you're training. You understand? That then, and what I'll say as well is if we get, and I'll give Erika a nudge, education and industry aligning, and industry saying these are the knowledge and skills required for this job role and this job function. Education delivering those knowledge and skills to young people, they can exit training and education with the requisite knowledge and skills. So not just the technical skills, but you're able to learn what we call the contingency skills, so teamwork and all those things that are necessary, transversal skills, all those things that are necessary for you to enter the job role. And then you can do those things from 18 years old, but it needs to be embedded in what we're actually doing at school right now. So if you were at school working on accounting software, and you were working on that CXE level I'm talking about, and you were working on producing at your level whatever reports and so on, doing presentations and not waiting until university, and those who don't go to university don't get it, then you start to develop those knowledge and skills. And then when you talk about bachelor and masters, in vocational and technical qualifications, you have levels. So level 1 is entry level, level 2. So it's almost like, and then go back to accounting, because I did accounts coincidentally. If you have the CXE and the associate degree, you may start as an accounting clerk. But when you move up and you have degree, ACCA and so on, then you can become a chief financial officer. So there are levels to technical education as well. Unfortunately, the opportunities are not here in Barbados in as many areas as yet, but I think that would be the way to bridge that gap.
Okay, we have another question coming in from Anita. In terms of Job Start Plus, what percentage of participants go on to receive full-time placements?
Well, I would say about a third of our participants. In terms of placements, let me distinguish. In Job Start Plus, we will get you a placement where you will work for a company for a stipend. And we try to get a minimum of 3 months, and our commitment is to try to get you up to 1 year of work experience. Then there is sometimes the opportunities where persons would not say, well, we don't want them as job starters in a placement arrangement where the arrangement is between us and the government, between them and the government of Barbados, but rather that they have vacancies and they will interview some of our job starters and select them for the job. And that now is an employment arrangement where now the agreement is between the job starter when they're successful and the company. So we do have those two types manifesting in the program. So we get about a third place, and then we train, and then sometimes they find work otherwise on their own. Sometimes they go back to school. So it's also that they're finding work outside of the program. So it is about a third, but it's not a reflection of how many still are waiting for work. Some are finding work otherwise, or pursuing their career, usually guided by the career planning process that we have in the program.
Okay, thank you for that. We have another question from Dan McCabe. I hope I pronounced your name right, Dan. This one is for Dario. He says, what role can WorldSkills Barbados play indirectly to benefit all students in the education system, not just the competitors?
All right, so WorldSkills has occupational standards. And these occupational standards are reviewed every 2 years globally. So they're actually developed by the experts who go to the competition from around the world, and they're sent to companies from different countries to validate that these are actually the knowledge and skills. We are trying to align these knowledge and skills to the training that we're delivering here in Barbados to close the knowledge and skill gap between what is being offered in Barbados and what is required on global workforce.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I hope that answered your question, Dan. Our next question from Maria Watson. How can the private sector help more to get these young people work experience? What is the process to become part of this program? Thank you for your question, Maria.
We just need them to give the young people a chance to work with us. The point of the program is that often some organizations, especially the small and medium-sized ones, they want to help, but they just don't have the time or the resources to put what needs to be in place to support a young person in their business, which is I heard earlier, mentorship, the job training and so on. So the program provides that support and helps them figure out those details and make it easier then for them to take in the young persons. So we just need the private sector and the third sector organizations to give these young persons a chance. They can contact us, and then we would work out the details of the placement, try to help them figure out exactly how it will work, the strategy for orientation, the strategy for mentorship, explain how we would go about the recruitment selection. So sometimes they can't even deal with that. We will handle that process for them. Or they will handle it, but we will support it, organize the interviews and so on. So we just asking the companies to give us a chance. We have a pool of young persons trained, ready, eager, enthusiastic, and there are opportunities out there. Just come and we would support it and get these young people working in your company.
So just to be clear, this is not only for large companies or big hotels.
No.
This is for anyone registered business.
Any business, any program is even structured for even self-employed persons. So artisans, tradesmen who want to take on a young person, they could come on board on Job Start Plus and take and with that, there is subsidization of the stipend. We do subsidize for those who are placed with the self-employed persons and those who are placed in third sector organizations. And when I say third sector, I mean like the non-government organizations, charities, community groups, and so on. So there is that additional support under the program. So if any company, if any organization is interested, if you are self-employed and you're willing to take on a young person, you could contact us and we will work with you and help make it happen.
Okay, good. Next question, and this is a comment. It may not be that young persons are emotional. He's going back to where we were speaking about attitudes. Some people just have a low tolerance for things the older staff would sit back and take. Jahim, let me throw you on the bus for that one.
I want to say that definitely we are in different times when it comes to what people would have tolerated in jobs. There's no doubt about that. You would realize that a lot of young people get to the disengagement process when it comes to career advancement very quickly, very easily. And the reason for that is there's a different mindset. It is as simple as a different mindset, a different mentality. But there's no doubt that that too isn't rooted in emotions. Reason being is because there was a time when if your boss shouts at you, you might not do anything about it, but you know that this job is your bread and butter, so you're gonna go and do your job. But now there is instances where if your boss shouts at you, or you get in a disagreement with your boss, you're going to tell off your boss, in not the best words either. You know good well that you don't have a job waiting for you after you tell off your boss, but you know that in telling off your boss, you ain't get fired, or you're going to say you're going to quit the job, or you're going to say you're walking off the job, or that you ain't coming back. What it tells me is that we don't have emotional intelligence in some areas, because I know that if this is my bread and butter, then buckle down, right? And even in that, what you then might begin to do is start job hunting or job seeking again.
But I think you also need to realize that there's a process for the grievance in the office. If your boss shouts at you, then there's steps that you can take to address that situation. And I think that people need to be educated more about those things as well.
They are.
When it comes to young people in the workplace, what we have to reinforce is that when they're saying about attitude and being emotional and so on, you have to have certain work values, you have to have a certain ethic. And it's not about the organization, it's not about the employer or the supervisor, it's about you and what you try to represent. So if, for example, you have a great idea and you're frustrated and the employer is not listening to you, okay, you just got to deal with that and just continue on with the job at hand. If, for example, and it's true, you have some people who are supervisors but don't have necessarily skills to be a supervisor. Some persons who are in those roles but don't necessarily have the ability to manage young persons. You have some companies who work well with these young people and know how to bring the most out of them, and then but you have to learn to navigate that in the workplace. And at the end of the day, it's about who you are as an individual, as a worker, what you represent, and staying true to that. And those are the kind of things that we try to promote in the program, and what I think needs to be promoted throughout schooling and so on. So it's not that you're emotional, but it's really that you're not tolerating certain things. Yes, you should not take certain negative behaviors and so on. That's not what we're encouraging, but how you navigate the workplace. As you mentioned, there's grievance processes. Make sure you're aware of these things, right? Simple things like knowing beyond the chain of command and what to do. That is a way of managing these things.
Even know your labor laws.
Know your labor laws, exactly, and know your rights, and know the process for dealing with these things. And as you say, if you find yourself in an organization that you don't think you're a good fit, it's not working out, or you start looking elsewhere, but it's about you and making sure that you do not present yourself in a way that is not true to your character. You have to have those values.
Do you find we would get that kind of outburst from persons who may have a less of a responsibility than like a person with children or paying rent or something? Because if as you said, if I have to pay rent and I have bills to pay and stuff, I'm gonna buckle down and do my job, and I'm gonna fight my grievance process and try to stick to it and whatever. But persons might say, I got children, and so do what you gotta do, get out of here.
It can't be that. Some have responsibilities but still don't care, and it's just that they just don't have a good attitude. They just don't have the work values that they need, the work ethic. I think when you have responsibilities and you have people depending on you, you will navigate those things a little differently.
And I think it's good that WorldSkills Barbados actually takes our young people out of Barbados so they could see that, these things are different out there. Y'all got it easy here.
Tell me about it. Sometimes when they see the venue on the whole, you gotta walk a kilometer to get to your skill area. Just the size of the venue. I remember one competition we went to. I think we went to about 3 or 4 different garages to learn one thing that one piece of equipment was doing. So just the technology there that they're able to see, to network with people in your industry from another country, just showing how small the world is and how connected you can be, is an opportunity that whenever they come through, I tell them this is yours, that you need to make the most of it.
Okay. We're going to make sure we put your information as well in the comments so persons can get in contact with you and find out what WorldSkills Barbados can do for them. We have another question coming in from Marquita Brathwaite. This is a follow-up. Are we now focusing on understanding neurodivergent students in our school system? Jahim is pointing at Erika. Should I repeat the question?
We have to manage these different challenges and different unique situations, and it's about greater understanding of them. Our program, for example, we have become more inclusive, specifically targeting young persons with disabilities, and we are dealing with some that have even like autism and so on. So you have to just kind of understand what all of what it involves, these things, and better cater to their needs, and also teach them and guide them in terms of how to manage and navigate the workplace.
And the Ministry of Labor has the capacity, the resource persons to do that effectively?
Oh yeah, so part of the process in Job Start Plus, for example, is that initially there's what we call the intake assessment, and it's essentially sitting down with a counselor and figuring out who you are. What are your needs, what if there's any challenges, and it's kind of assessing you at a psychosocial level and giving us that kind of insight, because it's not about whether you qualify for the program, but it's just about how can we support this young person. And then throughout the process, we would have different kinds of assessments and so on, to again better understand the young person, but also to better guide how we get partnerships and guide our partners in terms of when you're employing this young person, what maybe what is important consideration, how can you accommodate, because they will have a lot of potential, have a lot to offer, but you need to know how to navigate these certain things.
So that's from the point of view of the job starter or what's not. But what about employers, maybe HR, maybe part of management now is being able to deal with persons with whatever challenges or whatever differences that they may be entering the workforce with. Lifelong learning. So yes, you may be a good manager or you may be good at quality assurance or whatever, but these are the skills that you're going to require. I saw a podcast up recently about managing Gen Z. So the challenges that young people are coming to work with. So it's one thing to say, to equip them with the skills for the job, but obviously persons that in the workforce currently who are going to be working with Gen Z or younger people still need to be able to work with, understand, like technology. You come in from an age where you grew up with a cell phone, right? And grew up with internet. Many of us did not grow up with internet, right? So I think us in the workforce, we still need to be educated on how to navigate the same challenges.
Exactly, and even in ministry, we are trying to do more like employer training, for example, with the disability sensitivity training, so that they have a better understanding of these things and understanding how to make the most really support a person with disabilities in their workplace and so on, because they have a lot to offer, but so you're missing out. So how can we position you that you could get a great worker and just know how to manage them well? And there's other training like HERMAB, the BEC and so on. They do a lot of training trying to help persons, as he's saying, better manage like Gen Z and the realities of Gen Z. There is so much potential. They have a lot to offer, and you may just have to kind of change the way you manage, change the way you communicate, how you structure work or so on, so you could get the most from them and be able to grow with them.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap up. However, I'm going to offer you your final thoughts, any advice, words of wisdom for our young people, those who are leaving secondary school and now going into the workforce, or those who are transitioning from tertiary education, because you got to remember that everybody's not at tertiary education.
Right. So my advice would be to get those certification, and it doesn't necessarily have to be bachelor's degree or whatever. There are industry certification that people can get, like certified cybersecurity analysts or different trades or what's not have specific certification. So it doesn't have to be the traditional certification that you're doing. So I advise people to get those. Be patient, and you mentioned navigating the workforce, understanding organizational culture, because every organization you go into will not be the same, and you need to be able to decipher if you fit in with this and how can you fit in. So I think changing the mentality and the attitude and understanding where you fit in, but of course that goes back to the emotional intelligence. That would be my advice to young people entering the world of work now.
Erika?
I would say preparation is key. Try to make the most of every opportunity that is available. There's a number of programs, a number of initiatives. While you're in school, we have the discussion about certification. It's very important. Make the most of that. You have free education, get your certificates. The certification represents that you have minimum level of competence in certain areas. Far too often, young people find themselves kind of regretting not taking it more seriously because they didn't understand how important it was. So know that it is important and really make the most of your education, make the most of your training. Also, really explore the different career options. A lot of young people are still kind of limited to this certain boxes and certain traditional careers. There are more options out there, there's more opportunity. So try to learn more about the market, labor market, where the opportunities are. There is the Barbados Employment Career Counseling Service. They have career counseling, Job Start Plus and other programs offer career counseling. So there is some support there. And talk to your guidance counselor in school and try to get that guidance too. Because once you know what is needed, you could better prepare and be more strategic in everything you do. And then it can be challenging to find work. As I heard Deontay mention, leverage volunteer opportunities wherever you can. reach out to company. If you have a certain area of interest, you can reach out and say, look, I will willingly work with you. I just want to learn. And they will open the door, and it's still something. See the value in those kind of opportunities and really make the most of them. And when you start working, have those work values. Know that having the right attitude, how you respect certain principles in terms of integrity and so on, all these things are very key. It's important to have this as a part of you, and that would lead to success. So know that and work on those things.
Thank you. Jahim?
My final comments would be, for us who work in youth development is citizen development, and citizen development is national development. We have to continuously make the effort to find ways to make it easier and more suitable and more comfortable for young people to go into the workforce. That is very important for the nation's sustainability. For the young people, I want to say, own your education and own your future. I believe that when we are able to recognize and see where we want to go, even from a young age, that we are able to, even with our parents involved, parental involvement, family involvement, we are able to see what pathway we can go. And even if there are little changes here or there, you have a mindset, you have a focus, you have a vision, you have a goal. And that goal, I want young people to believe within themselves, is achievable, attainable, and can be done in a very, very, very legal way.
Thank you for that. Now that's a wrap for this episode of In Focus. We've heard the real talk on what it takes and what needs to change for our young people to get a fair shot at meaningful work and legal work. Whether you're an employer, policymaker, teacher, or just starting your career, the message is clear. Change won't happen unless we make it happen. A big thank you to my panel for joining this discussion, and to you, our audience, for tuning in and sharing your comments and questions. I'm Sharifa Medford-Gilkes, and until next time, stay informed and stay safe.